What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. This week, we're talking about rewards for play of the game, weekly challenge, and the recent Blizzard Hearthstone fiasco. Let's get started. First question, do you think getting a play of the game should be rewarded, like some extra XP or some coins? I don't really think so, not at this point anyways, because the system that determines the play of the game is not all that great. Let's be honest here. I mean, how many times have you seen, a Torbjorn who was already taken out, just waiting to respawn, and his turret is just getting all these eliminations and he gets play of the game? Or, some other ridiculous stuff. And then some other characters like Ana and Mercy have a very difficult time of getting play of the game. And it's just not a very good system at this point. If they were to ever fix it, then yeah, maybe it might be cool to just throw some extra coins or something like that, or maybe some bonus XP. That could work, but they'd need to fix the system first. So, would a support hero who creates health stations be viable? Yes, I think it definitely would be. Instead of having people saying, I need healing, you would hear them spamming, put dispenser here. There's a character in TF2 called the Engineer who has an ability called dispenser, and you put it down and all of your teammates can come over and they can get healed by it. I actually created a hero concept, the second one I ever made, which was called Dergby, and he also has something like that, where you can put it down and any of your teammates that come over will get healed, but unlike the TF2 version, the one that I created for Dergby is finite. It only has a certain amount of healing in it, and once it heals up all of that, then it just goes away and you have to put down another one. But otherwise, it would last forever or until it's destroyed. If you want to know more about that hero concept, you can go and check it out. There'll be a link on screen and down below. But as far as the health station thing, yeah, it definitely would work. But, there would have to be certain limitations to it. Like, I don't think you could have it healing forever. I think there would have to be resource on it. And I also think that the enemy would have to destroy it, of course. Next question. How would you handle a map prefer system? I would pretty much do the exact same thing that CSGO does, which is before you even go into any of the matches, there's a big listing of all the maps. And then you just pick the ones that you want to play on, and you can turn them on and off. And then when you queue up for a match, you know that you're going to get one of those maps, and those are the only ones that you queued for. I don't like the other system where people would go into a match and then everybody votes on what one you want to play. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think you should just pick it before you ever queue up. Now, I know some of the concerns would be, well, what if people just pick one map and, it's good for the character that they like? Wouldn't it allow them to get, extra SR and more rank and stuff because they keep practicing on that one map? Yes, but only to a very limited degree. People do that in CSGO. They will only play one map, like Dust or Dust 2 or whatever, right? So they do that already, but there's almost no noticeable increase in their rank because of it. Like, you get better from just simply practicing that same map, yeah? Doesn't give you any major advantage beyond that. Now, with Overwatch, yes, there is a difference between characters that have vertical mobility and those that don't, but again, it's kind of more dependent on what the meta is as opposed to, like, what you like to play. So, I mean, I would like to see the system that they have in CSGO. I think that would definitely work. And I don't think that Blizzard would ever do it, because then they would have certain maps like Paris that would just never get played, and they don't want to see that. Next question. Would an ult that resets the enemy ult charge to 0 work in Overwatch? Absolutely not. It would be way too powerful. And even if it was just a single enemy, right, rather than just the entire enemy team, if it was just a single enemy, resetting that ult charge would be way too powerful, because you could use it on an enemy Zenyatta or something, denying the transcendence. It's just way too powerful of an ability. And on top of that, it would just be way too frustrating, right? Like, you get your ultimate and then suddenly it disappears. That is not something that people want to deal with. So it's too powerful. You would need to have that character on both teams all the time, and it would just be frustrating. So no, they definitely shouldn't add that to the game. Next up, when is the Halloween Terror event? I thought it was going to start last week, but I don't know. It looks like this week. My guess is probably Monday or Tuesday of this week. I mean, Halloween isn't that far away, and usually the events last for about 3 weeks. So, I mean, sometime this week, my guess is maybe Monday or Tuesday. Next up, if Blizzard hired you to do their hero changes, who would be the first hero on your list? All of them. And I'm not even joking with that. Like, I'm totally serious. all of the characters because there is such a significant problem with the hero balancing in this game right now that you would need to address all of the characters as a whole in order to get everything to where it needs to be. But certainly characters like Bastion, Genji, Torbjorn, Symmetra, Reaper Shadowstep, that sort of stuff, all those would definitely need a little extra attention, but as a whole, every character would need to be looked at and kind of tuned a little bit. I don't think that any one character would get away with no changes whatsoever. There would have to be some at least minor changes to each character. Next up, can you explain the difference between stun and incapacitate, also known as sleep? There are different kinds of crowd control. A stun completely locks you out from doing anything. This is why you have McCree and Brigitte who have very short durations. It's a second or less because you can't attack, you can't move, you can't use any of your abilities. With Reinhardt, it's a little bit longer because it's an ult and they're supposed to be stronger. But with something like a sleep, then yeah, you can't do anything, but even a single point of damage will wake you up. So that's the main difference, right? Like a stun cannot be broken, but a sleep can be broken. And then you have other stuff like root and banish and silence and all those sorts of things. So general rule when it comes to any kind of crowd control is the more stuff that it stops you from doing, the shorter the ability has. So again, McCree, Brigitte, those are very short, and then you have Ana, Junkrat, Zarya, those sorts of characters, they have much longer effects because you can still do stuff. You can still attack, you can still use abilities, you just can't move. So, next question. Should weekly challenges be in the game? Well, they kind of already have it with the arcade where you can get the loot boxes and stuff, but yeah, I definitely think that they should do more. They could have more interesting things that could also apply to quick play and to competitive as opposed to being just restricted to the arcade mode. So they could definitely do more stuff. Now, they can't do like a full mini event every single week where they give out a bunch of sprays and a new skin and stuff like that. But maybe like every other week, they could give out a spray or some sort of victory pose or something, you know, something a little bit simpler. Maybe even just voice lines. You know, those are probably the easiest thing that they could add to the game. And they could do that like every other week or every couple weeks. And in the meantime, they could have other challenges that just reward either bonus experience or bonus credits or something like that. But yeah, they could definitely spice up the weekly challenges a little bit more than what they're currently doing. Next up, do you think there is any power creep in the game? Yes, absolutely, definitely there is. And most of it comes from the fact that there's now a lot more healing in the game than there ever was before. Because when the game first came out, you had Mercy, Zenyatta, and Lucio, and that was it. So you had very little healing, so damage characters could do a lot. But then as they started adding all the other characters that could heal, you started having a lot more sustain, and characters were just staying around, living a lot longer than they were before, and because of that, they had to gradually increase the other characters' damage in order to kind of compensate for that. But there's a couple of characters like Genji, for example, who never really got change, and they're kind of being left behind, and Soldier is also another character that's kind of falling behind as well, where they just can't keep up with all the healing that's in the game. So yes, there definitely has been power creep. Most of it comes from just that massive amount of extra healing that's in the game. Next up, this was a big topic all week. What are your thoughts on the recent Blizzard controversy, and how do you think that will affect Overwatch? So, interesting thing I want to point out, for this week's Respawn question card, I had over 500 questions, and only about 3 of them asked this question or something close to it. So that was just interesting. I thought there was going to be way more than that. But getting back to the topic at hand. So first of all, let's talk about what the punishments were for this. And they were just excessive. They were absurd, right? They took all of the players' prize money and they banned him for a year. And I think they permanently fired the casters. Now, since then, they have changed it and they dropped it down to a 6-month suspension for both the casters and the player. And they also decided to give the guy's money back for his prize money, which is really good. But even then, that's still excessive, right? It's absurd. Like, even the current punishments that they have are just absolutely absurd. Now, another thing is that, in case you don't know, ESPN, for the last couple years, has been having a lot of problems. And they've been losing a massive, massive amount of viewership because they kept putting political stuff in their broadcast. Now, it would make sense for some of these other companies to try to avoid the same mistakes that ESPN did, but that's not what happened. Blizzard actually just made their own new and unique mistakes, and they just caused more problems, and they just made the whole thing an absolute mess. Now, anyone pretending that Blizzard is neutral is either just lying or they're just fooling themselves, because there's absolutely no way that Blizzard is neutral in a lot of these stuff. If you look at any of the, and I'm not just talking about this particular incident, if you look at a lot of the history of some of Blizzard's broadcasts for this game and for other games and all sorts of stuff, you'll see that they absolutely do push some political stuff. They promote certain things and they ban and they block other things. So they are not neutral in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and to pretend otherwise is just foolish. So that's one thing. The punishments were just ridiculous, as I said, and it seems like they're just making the problem worse and worse. Like everything they're doing is just making it worse. Now, I know some people want to say, well, they should just completely pull out of China and they shouldn't do business there anymore and all this sort of stuff. But it's not that easy. You have to understand, it's not just like the CEOs and the COOs and all the other, three-letter people who have, high-paid jobs. There are so many people that work at Blizzard and all these other companies. It's the artists, it's the programmers, it's the web designers, it's the community managers, secretaries, office personnel, maintenance workers, right? Like, all of these people, and if all of a sudden Blizzard just cut out and lost like billions of dollars in revenue, then a lot of people are going to lose their job, right? It's more complicated than just, you should do this. And it's easy to say that, oh, well, you should just stop working there. Like, what about all the people that have families? They have kids, right? Like, if you have children, you have a responsibility to take care of them. You have to put a roof over your head and their head. You have to put food on the table. You can't just leave. Like, for those of you that don't know, I've been poor for most of my life. I was homeless at one point. You can't just, up and leave everything. Like, you have to take care of your responsibilities, and it's just way more complicated. Now, you can apply pressure and try to get them to do the right thing, but it's not really a good thing to go after a lot of, just the regular people, right? But make no mistake, there are some really, really big problems with China right now, and it goes way beyond just them wanting to change stuff in video games and movies. You have these big tech companies that are blocking apps and changing search engine results and all that sort of stuff. Like, it goes way beyond that. Obviously, what they're doing with Hong Kong is just unacceptable. I mean, it's a really big issue, and the world as a whole is going to have to address it. This is like government level stuff, right? This isn't like dude who plays Overwatch level stuff. Now, obviously, you can put pressure on the right people in order to do that, but this is a much bigger issue than just, one Hearthstone player getting banned. I'm not particularly worried about Blizzard getting upset at me because I don't think they really like me all that much to begin with. So, it's not like we're best friends and they're just, gonna stop inviting me to parties, So, I'm not really worried for myself. But, I mean, the situation is just a complete mess, right? I think if Blizzard, the best thing that they could do is they could be honest about what's going on, honest about the situation. I would also probably get rid of the punishments for the casters and the player altogether, and just try to go from there, right? Like, the damage has been done. You can't change the past, so just try to fix the future. Try to make something better going forward. So that's it. And that's going to be all the questions for this week. Thank you to everyone who submitted one. Remember, I post a question card every Saturday on the community tab of my YouTube channel, so that is where you want to be posting your questions for next week's Respawn. And again, if you want to check out that Dergby character hero concept, there'll be a link down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.